All right. Yeah, like I was telling you the other day, yeah, we got a little bit of snow here. So where you at now? Where you at like right now?
Medellin, Colombia, and we
How's it
have
down there?
1,000 American veterans that live here, and we have two different veteran centers for veterans, and things are going swimmingly.
Some with
There are
wounded.
three. There are like three veteran-owned bars within like walking distance from my house, so there's always somebody to go hang out with.
Some with wounded warriors, and we actually had some lady. She was from the Dominican Republic, and she came on and was telling us about the different services they have for different
Mhm.
veterans down in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah, I
What was
started living there, and they have probably about six or seven veteran centers around the island for American veterans, and that's why there's probably like 15,000 American veterans that live in the Dominican Republic.
and how long you been? How long you been where you at now?
So I started in Thailand. I did a year in Thailand, and then I did about 3.5 years in the Dominican Republic, and now I've been in Medellin for a few months. So I kind of, kind of like PCSing around. I think veterans like to stay on the move.
Yeah.
So,
So what part of Thailand were you in?
I was in Bangkok.
Okay. So when I was in the Navy, we had a chance to go to Pattaya.
Oh yeah, I can't believe they let sailors go to Pattaya. I don't know what's going on with that. But I've taken
It
some
was it
weekend
was it
trips
was
down there.
a
You know, they
wild,
actually,
crazy night. I'll say that it was a wild, crazy.
yeah. Well, they actually have a VFW and an American Legion in Pattaya. There's a lot of veterans that live there.
Okay. Yeah, I bet. I bet. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just
lots of older Vietnam veterans with 25-year-old Thai wives.
hey, it's what it is.
I want to see Vietnam veterans happy. And, so there are certain cities around the world that do have higher concentration of veterans. So Pattaya would definitely be one. Like Punta Cana, Dominican Republic has a lot of veterans. And here in Medellin, we have a lot of veterans. So I like talking about like the different veteran friendly countries. Like
Yeah.
Panama is a real veteran friendly country. Costa Rica has an American Legion there. And there's probably 3 or 4 American Legion posts in Mexico. So there's lots of veterans that are around the world thriving. And that's kind of been my message with all this stuff is,
Mhm.
hey, a lot of veterans in America are surviving, or like you, shoveling snow, and lots of veterans like me are living the dream abroad.
Yeah. So I want to take things back to the beginning. Tell me,
Yeah,
tell us where you originally from, John.
I grew up in Iowa, so and then after failing out of community college, I decided to go ahead and join the army.
So what made your decision to join the army over other branches?
uh, the army told me that, so I was ready to get the hell out. So one of the things that the army has is like faster ship dates. So when I
Okay.
talked to like the other branches and stuff like that, it was going to take a lot longer, and I was ready to like go over to the Middle East. And the army recruiter was like, just sign the line for infantry, and then before you know it, 3 months later, I was in Afghanistan. So they were definitely not bullshitting around. So, it was a little too fast for me initially because
Yeah.
I went straight over there. So I like met my platoon over in Afghanistan. So I literally got to my basic or got to my duty station, and then 2 weeks later shipped out for Afghanistan. And then that kind of like fast paced life kind of dictated my military career.
So when you came in, how long was boot camp for you guys?
Now they've made it longer. I know they've changed. It's kind of weird when you've been out of the military for a little bit and they change things, and you're like, oh, now it's like that, or certain jobs don't exist anymore. So when I did it, it was 14 weeks. So 9 weeks basic training, and then like 5 or 6 weeks for infantry training, and then obviously different jobs have different uh,
Yeah.
different lengths of training.
So when I came in '96, the Navy, our boot camp was 2 months, and then
Hmm.
we it's called A school. That's where you learn your
Yeah.
job. So after boot camp, you go to A school, and that was another 2 months. And at that point, I was at my first duty station. So 4 months in the Navy, you're at your first duty station. Yeah. So things are a little different. When did you come
Everything
in?
changes over time. I joined in 2008.
Okay, 2008. Okay, like I said, I was
Yep. So
96. It
then
wasn't too much going on then. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, before you know it, 9/11 kicked off. So it's funny the guys that they joined. Oh, I'm just trying to go to college, and all of a sudden it's a huge wars kick off. So one thing you can say for my generation of veterans is like we knew what we were getting into. I think that there's something to that. That we knew we were getting into. I knew I was joining the military in a time of war. So when I went over there, I wasn't very surprised. But the military was like, listen, the military is the best thing that ever happened to me. I think a lot of us tend to get out and either we do two things. One, we victimize ourselves through our service and kind of look at it like, oh, woe, it's me. I have this back pain, I have these issues. Or we overly romanticize our service like, oh, that was the best glory days of my entire life and blah, blah, blah. When, there's a lot of bullshit in the military too. So I like
Yeah.
to try and live in reality and be like, there were some good days, some bad days, but overall, I'm glad I did it because now I get benefits for the rest of my life. I was able to go to college. I was able to buy my first home. So there's so many things about the military that are unique. And I always tell young people, if you don't come from family money and you're not gonna like play sports in college or something, join the military because there's no other mechanism that can elevate your life and get you into a better position and as well as have experiences. I think we forget the life's supposed to be an adventure.
Definitely. You'll get that adventure in the military.
Yeah, and that's what I think. I think a lot of us need that adventure. Now especially because we're living through our cell phones. People aren't having as many experiences and not having as many human connections. That's why stuff like this I think is valuable because whether 5 people watch it or 5,000 people watch it, it's 2 people connecting in a real way. And in an artificial world, those types of connections become very valuable.
So during your time, and what's some of the places you've been at, been stationed and or
Well,
deployed
one
to?
thing about the military or the army opposed to the navy is the army does not send you anywhere good. They just send you to shitty places. So in the navy, hey, we're in Hawaii, we're in Japan, we're in
Yeah.
Pattaya, Thailand, we're stopping by the Philippines, we're doing this and that. The army just sent me to Afghanistan. That's it, over and over again. So there wasn't
Uh-huh.
so, I ended up getting hurt on my second deployment. I was an IED, and then when I came back, I got sent to recruiting duty up in New York, and that was kind of a weird experience for me because I didn't even know you could like when I joined the military. I didn't even know they could like I could go be a recruiter. I thought I was just doing my job, and that was going to be it. But then, so they sent me to be a recruiter, and they sent me to New York, and I grew up in Iowa, so getting sent up to New York for me was like more of a culture shock than Afghanistan. Like at least in Afghanistan, I'm walking around with a gun and everything. In New York, I'm just walking around, and that was that was a big wake up call for me is getting sent to New York. So recruiting in New York, and then I got out of the military from there, and I immediately moved overseas.
So I wound up getting my last duty station in was at recruiting in Richmond, Virginia.
Okay, so you know the pain. You know the
Yeah.
pain.
But the
Yeah.
Navy does have pretty good duty station because we're mostly by the water, so we do have pretty good duty stations like San Diego, Hawaii,
Yeah.
Mayport, Florida. So like
You get those
that's some
views.
pretty, Virginia Beach. So there's some pretty decent places to get stationed at in the Navy. But you got to know how to swim. A lot of people join the Navy can't swim. It's crazy, and they'll almost let you drown. Like during boot
Yeah.
camp, they'll
Right.
see if you can figure it out. They'll just you see guys just going down. Eventually, they'll jump in. But yeah,
I'm surprised people don't take swimming lessons or figure out how to do it beforehand, or if you're like, if
maybe
the
I
water's
think
not
things
for
might
you.
be different now as they do a little bit of work with the they call them future sailors. But when I came in, no, we did no running before
That could,
like in what was that delayed entry. We did none of that
yeah.
when I was like coming in. We had meetings and that was it. Every now and then you had these meetings, but we did no working out, no swimming, none of that. So we
So
didn't have.
were you one of the sailors that knew how to swim or didn't know how
I
to
knew
swim?
how to swim. I was one of the few brown guys that knew how to swim. I was one of the few.
That's what that's what I was
I
trying
had,
to say without saying it, not to make any black swimming jokes, but I don't know.
we had one
A lot of
guy.
black guys in the army.
Yeah, we had one guy who's from New York. He wanted to pay me to take his swim qual. He kept failing because he couldn't swim. He wanted to pay me. Could I just take it, wear his jacket over and take
Right.
his record? Because they don't check your ID or nothing when you go over to take the swim test. He wanted me to take his test because he could not swim. We had another guy. He was from like Little Rock, Arkansas. He was a pretty big guy, and he blamed it on because he was like 2% body fat because he couldn't swim.
It's fat floats, you know. How many people actually like don't make it through because of swimming? Is that very common, or do they usually kind of force you through?
They have a remedial swim. Like if you fail, like on that day, you have to just go back. You just keep going back until you pass it.
So eventually, you're gonna fucking swim. Eventually, like, or you're gonna drown.
He had nobody when I was there, like get held back or anything for swimming.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Once you get to your training station, the military has put so much time and effort and shipped you out and everything. They're gonna make sure you get through. And that's kind of, I think, one of the problems that the Army and the branches face today is like they're getting these kids that are so unprepared for boot camp and basic training, and then they somehow struggle through, and then they're so unprepared for their unit, they're so unprepared for the real world military. You know, I think that's kind of a generational thing as well. But I have a lot of friends who are serving. There's like these 18, 19-year-olds that are coming up today are just, you know, just a different class of people.
Mm-hmm. So the Army sent you straight out the gate over seas. I didn't go until like my 19th year over to Iraq.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, hey, at least you made it. I mean, the wars, you made it.
So yeah, the way like my CO, like when I came back, when I was coming back, he's like, you don't even have to come back to work. He said, just worry about, your retirement and everything.
Yeah.
I never went back to work. And even though he was hooking me up, I felt as though after the fact, because that wasn't good for me. Because coming from, think about Europe.
Right, you needed that.
Yeah, I'm in Iraq, and then I come home, and I'm just only one home all day, every day. Kids going to school and stuff like that, and it's just, that wasn't a good thing. But
where you're at in Iraq?
Baghdad. I got a chance to go to Baghdad up to Erbil for a couple of weeks. I worked with Swedish Special Forces up there for a couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got a chance to travel around over there. It was pretty cool. It wasn't that bad, but we did have some IDFs, stuff like that, crazy stuff.
So then you hit the door at 20 years in and got out, right?
Yeah.
I'm always surprised because I was talking to a veteran today. He was like, I'm 22 years in. I'm thinking about retiring. I'm like, bro, get out. Like, you already did your 20. Like, there's no, like, the difference. Like, my roommate, he's a 20-year Army guy. So we live together here in Medellin. We have a nice three-bedroom, 2-story penthouse with a jacuzzi, with everything. So it's pretty cool. But he's like, man, the day at 20 years, I was out the door. I don't understand people that stayed past, because the pay is not that much different. Like 20 to 22 years, the pay is like nothing. Even like, I was surprised when you see even the differences between retiring. It was like E8, 89, E7. Like, it's really not that much money. So, and that's one of the things that I think is important for veterans to think about. I talk about a lot is like, listen, after you do 20 years in the Army, you can be poor in America or you can be rich overseas. Like, you kind of have those two options. And a lot of veterans, who do the 20 years, like some of them just go straight back to work. And I'm like, man, enjoy your retirement. Like, be retired, live your life. Because, the cool thing, like my roommate, for example, I'll talk about him because he joined when he was 17 and he retired at 37. That's not a bad deal. I mean, that's what
I came in right after high school. I waited like 2 years. I went to college for a little bit, but I was 19 when I came in. Man, that would have been perfect. Since both like have ties to recruiting, and that's considered like a special program. When you were in, and even when you were at recruiting, what's a special program like the Army has? A lot of people wouldn't know. Something you may have learned about. Or like a job, like there was.
Yeah, see, the Army has like 150 different jobs. So, the Army recruiting works different.
I met a girl who was it's called like human. So basically, she's a human lie detector.
Yeah.
So
like forensics jobs and everything.
Yeah, I did not know we had that in the Navy. And until I
Yeah,
met
I mean,
there's jobs
yeah,
that people have.
I put in people that were like veterinary technicians. I put in lots of people that were all the weird jobs in the military, from like all the different engineering positions to like journalism to cameramen to, a million and one different jobs. So recruiting is one of those things where, there's good things and bad things. And I enjoyed a lot of my time recruiting, like, and that was a good trend. One of the things about recruiting, it was a good transition for me out of the army, because you're already kind of living in civilian life. I'm already living in a civilian house. I'm already like, kind of working more of a 9 to 5 job, opposed to like the military, which is like a 24/7 job. So for me, I think that's one of the things that really helped me a little bit with my transition out of the army was I was recruiting. But recruiting also comes with a lot of stress, because your success or failure as a recruiter is dependent on like the whims of fucking 18-year-olds. And so it's like, these kids are supposed to ship out to basic training, and they're not answering their door, and they've already signed the contract. I'm trying to talk to the parents, like, hey, it's time to go to basic training. And the kid's like hiding in the living room. His mom's like, he doesn't want to go. I'm like,
Yeah,
this, he already went to MEPS, already signed the contract, time to ship out. But so recruiting is kind of like a list of funny stories, especially going to high schools, and being in high schools and stuff like that. You kind of have all these like crazy experiences, but I always wanted to be a drill sergeant. I was like that was more up my lane, especially as an army guy. Like that was what I wanted to do. So I was a little shocked when the army forced me to go be a recruiter.
so when I went to before I deployed, they sent me to combat training, which was in what's that, Columbia, South Carolina, outside of yeah, we were outside Fort Jackson at National Guard base. That's the way they made us stay since we weren't Army. So we stayed. I can't remember. It was a Camp McCurdy, whatever. So we stayed like down the street, but we did everything on Fort Jackson for
And what
like
they do
2
is tell you how to tell
we
you
did
not to
all these
die.
like scenarios when it came to like they trained us different scenarios, like being over there. They had like some like Afghani guy come and give us training. We did a lot of shooting too. Like we did a
Yeah,
lot. That's what we did pretty much every day. Because it gets real hot there in the morning. We
yeah.
would be out there on the range. Did a lot of shooting, a lot. Yeah.
Well, here, I thought about your question for a second. One of the big things for Army that is great for right now in today's world is student loan repayment. So if you're going to join the military, student loan repayment can be a very big thing, because a lot of kids wind themselves into like, a ton of debt at a young age. And the military will repay your student loans and wipe them off if you're willing to go sign your name on the dotted line and ship off into the unknown.
Yeah. There's a lot of programs like even for like reservists. There was one
Yeah,
program I remember. If they did a certain amount of time, they got like a $20,000 bonus. They
yeah,
just do boot camp, A school, and then they just come back to the reserves. But a lot of
yeah.
those guys were blowing the money. It was crazy.
Oh,
You
yeah.
get kids getting a
Yeah,
twenty
it's
thousand.
you go to a strip club, you buy a new Dodge Charger, and that's your entire bonus money. So I think that's a military tradition, to blow your deployment or bonus money. So,
So
but
you were
it's,
saying,
what it sucks about bonuses are taxed. That's why you got to re-enlist to make sure you do when you're overseas, because then it's not taxed.
so when I was deployed, I was with Navy Special Warfare Group One. So they're over all the West Coast SEAL teams. They were sending the SEALs over there to re-enlist.
Yeah. And they do that stuff because
They're
they do like
tax
all
free.
these 2 month deployments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they were.
Because then they go and get a huge, huge bonus. But now the military gives out really good bonuses, because, recruiting goes up and down. So the bonuses are always going to be based on the needs of the military and where they need you for certain jobs. So it's funny, people come in to join the military, go to the paperwork, do the maps, do all that stuff. Then you look at contracts with them and you say, okay, this is we'll say it's a $20,000 bonus for 5 years. Do you want that? And they're like, I'm going to think about it. And they leave, come back the next day, it's gone. So you miss that opportunity because it might come back, it might not come back. It's dependent on the military, people getting out, people coming in, what they need. So it was kind of funny to see kids come in and be like, I want the bonus, I'm gonna do it. And be like, it's gone. Now you're getting now you get a zero bonus if you want that job. So congratulations. So stuff like that was always kind of funny recruiting. And then yeah, I just remember like going to high schools and hitting on teachers. Like that was kind of my main experience recruiting.
Yeah, we would get a lot of complaints, about some of the recruiters.
Oh yeah, recruiters are sometimes the worst people. I always did kind of funny stuff. Like it'd be funny, like my boss would call me, like, "Where are you guys at?" And I'd be like, me and Sergeant Cox are drinking at the bar. Let's go to Applebee's. Someone buys you a drink. It's respectful to have it. Like, it's just weird recruiting stories.
Uh-huh.
Go to the movies during the day. I mean, recruiting is kind of one of those weird things where it's like it's just a weird job.
So overall, how was your experience in the Army?
I love the Army. Like, when I medically retired, so when they gave me the option to take a medical retirement, I decided to do it as opposed to it. I'd have to, because I had some bad TBI and issues, so I would have to stay in non-combat roles, if I was to continue serving, so I could have continued to serve as a recruiter or something like that. But for me, the military changed a lot during my time in. Like even like not to be weirdly sexist, but like the infantry started letting women in. So when I first joined, women were not allowed in combat roles in the Army. And then towards the end of my career, they started letting women into the military. Society changed and I changed. So for me, it was kind of time to get out. And and then now I have a really good deal. I'm really happy that I served. I'm really happy that I went to Afghanistan because now I have medical care for the rest of my life. I currently do my medical care here in Colombia at $0. Tomorrow, I'm going to get my teeth cleaned and do physical therapy and get a massage. So all these benefits exist for me here in Colombia. And I actually get better medical care here than I did in the United States, where I remember my first time like going to the VA when I was like really struggling. I had to wait like 3.5 weeks for a mental health appointment. And then the day I went to do my appointment, the doctor wasn't even fucking there. So I walked in for my appointment after struggling, after admitting to my problems, after getting addicted to some of the pills they're giving me, drinking too much, walking in and they're like, the doctor's not here today. So you have to make another appointment and come back. So, so I understand that veterans are struggling. And that's one reason I started trying to talk to veterans about things like affirmations, about things like moving abroad, about the different benefits available to us, because a lot of veterans don't know that a lot of veterans don't have no idea that you can get your medical care here in Colombia paid for at zero out of pocket. So I go to this clinic and they build a VA. And it's a veteran only clinic. So every day I go in there, there's other veterans hanging around. We talk, chop it up. So it's a good community too.
So I used to work for the Fiscal Disability Board of Review. So anybody who was medically separated from 2001 to 2020 can submit an application to get their case relooked at. So we wound up medically retiring a lot of people after they got relooked, which was a good thing. But something that you mentioned, it reminded me when I worked for that job, I was one of the ones who had to reach out to applicants. So one time, normally I would block my number, and one time I forgot to block my number when I called this guy, right? Because he was missing some information as applicant. So one day I get this number, someone is calling me, and when I pick it up, guy's in full meltdown.
Oh,
crying, crying and everything. And he's and I'm like, hey, have you tried to call the VA? It's gonna be 3 months before I can talk to anybody. And I'm like, what about the Veterans Center? And I'm trying to shoot him off to other people.
Right, like the VA crisis line is for this. Yeah.
But
not me.
He just wanted someone to talk to. I sat there and listened to him talk for an hour, and crying about his issues, what he was going through, and it was at the hour point, he was a different person. And once he got done, he went from crying to all right, man, I'm done talking. Everything changed. He just needed to get that off his chest. And I was going to listen, yeah, and he was fine. He just needed to talk to somebody, and he talked to me, like I said, for about an hour. Good.
Sometimes it's easier to have like those types of conversations with people you don't really know because it can be harder to tell that stuff to your spouse, to your family, even like a therapist you've been working with. Sometimes you just got to get off your chest like that. So I mean, it's cool that you're able to be there for them because if you would have clicked deny or not answer, who knows what would have happened. I mean,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So, can you share a story with us during your like a deployment story or time from recruiting?
yeah, of course. So, I like deployment stories, but deployment stories are better than recruiting stories. Recruiting stories probably get me in trouble. I'm not sure how I'm not sure the statute of limitations on recruiting. But one thing that I'll say is I really love being deployed, but you see the best and worst of humanity, and you see the best and worst in yourself. I think that's one thing the military kind of provides everybody. But I remember this one guy who he was going through some issues with his wife, and he's in the room next to mine, and I hear him like fucking arguing on Skype, out in the MWR and stuff. He walks
Mhm.
straight into his room and blasts himself with his foot with his M4. So they send him home. So now his foot looks like a Ninja Turtle foot. It's like one of those like weird like misses his toes. So that's one thing in the military, like it just gives you all these kind of like great. And at the time, you're like, what the fuck? Like, oh my, he's bleeding everywhere. You're trying to help him. He's screaming about his wife. There's lots of funny deployment stories, and that's one thing the military gives you is stories. And at the end of my life, I want to have a collection of stories. I'm not necessarily interested in possessions. I'm not really interested in consumerism or materialism. But what I am interested in is like living a great story. And that's one thing that like travel has been for me since I got out of the military
Yeah,
was an ability to kind of keep the adventure rolling a little bit, kind of like the military adventure rolling, the ability to kind of wake up every day and have the unknown in front of you. Because I think sometimes for veterans, when we get out of the military, then we enter into the society that feels like an alien world. Like when you get back into civilian life, it feels kind of like an alien world. So for me, I feel more comfortable outside the United States and inside the United States. And some of that is because of like, here in Colombia, God is very present in people's lives. People are way more community and family oriented than the United States. So having kind of those types of aspects in society to me it has been really helpful. And then it's also given me time and space to heal myself because here I have a better work, recreation and leisure balance. In the United States, we're kind of judged by our bank accounts and not necessarily by like the quality of our character or anything like that. So living abroad for me has enabled me to kind of have this different kind of life. Whereas like a veteran expat, I kind of feel like I have the best of every world because every single month I get my military pension. Every single month I work online, and every single month I just spend pesos. And I can get great quality meal for very cheap. I can date the most beautiful women. It's a good deal.
so you said you've moved a lot since you've gotten out. Do you think you're going to stay Colombia much longer? And if you do move, where do you think you're going to go to next?
I'll be traveling next year a lot, so I'm going to spend some more time in Asia. So I'd like to do some articles on my blog about the Philippines. A lot of veterans are there. A lot of veterans want to go there. One of the benefits of there is obviously this cheap cost of living. They have a VA hospital, VFW, American Legion, military resources, and the people there speak English. So that makes kind of transitioning there a little bit easier for a lot of veterans. A lot of Navy guys go to the Philippines. So last time I was there in the Philippines, lots of Navy guys. So I plan on spending a couple months there next year. I have my blog on my website, so I like to like write different articles about different countries I visit and talk about the military benefits for veterans there. So like on my blog, I have articles on like the veteran clinics in Thailand and like the VFWs in Mexico and like about living veteran life in Costa Rica. Places I visited and talked to veterans there and stuff like that. Because I started it I posted a video on my Instagram page, like, I don't know, maybe a couple of years ago, and it got over 1 million views of people who were like, oh, I didn't know I could move to Dominican Republic as a veteran. You can get your benefits there, you can move there, you get healthcare there. And I got like all these messages from veterans who were like, what? So that's when I realized a lot of veterans wanted to know this information, wanted
Yeah,
to know how you could live a higher quality life at a lower cost, how you kind of escape some of the political division and the chaos and kind of like the reality show feeling of the United States. So I started writing on my blog, like, hey, how to live in the Dominican Republic as a veteran. And, for me, that's been really fulfilling because I've helped a lot of veterans, like, you know, um, kind of experience a different kind of life and that this information is out there. So like in the Dominican Republic, our last veteran event, we had like over 100 veterans there. And that was so cool to see like all these veterans come together and share resources and help each other out and like, do all this healthy stuff like scuba dive, hike, all this kind of like different kind of life together instead of just the United States where everybody's like stressed and yelling at each other.
Yeah, that's some good information, man. You got, man.
Yeah, when are you gonna come visit? You can go see the clinic here.
It would be more than just the clinic if I want to come see.
I'll take you a couple places. I'm a good host. Like that's one. So because me and my buddy, we live in a 3 bedroom. So like he had one of his old his old sergeant major come visit us like last week, and we took him out, took him around, showed him everything. So it's fun showing people because I think a lot of veterans just need a break. Some just need a break, just need a vacation because that's one thing you realize that when you go on a vacation or you take a trip or something like that, you find your cortisol levels drop, you find your stress kind of releases, you find yourself sleeping through the night, you find yourself appreciating little things in life, eating slower, living slower. So I wanted veterans to know that you can kind of just continue that if you stay on vacation. So I've been on vacation for like 6 years now, which is like so I'm like stress free. I just turned 39 like 2 days ago. So I feel like I'm aging backwards. I feel stressed. I feel
So so when you got to Columbia, how did you get set up for a place? What was some of the like?
so I So kind of the best avenue for renting an apartment abroad kind of differs country to country. So one of the nice things about Colombia is Airbnbs here are super cheap. So what I did is me and my buddy we rented Airbnb for like 2 weeks, and then we kind of walked around, talked to people, met people, negotiated with people, and then we found an Airbnb kind of off Airbnb to rent for a cash deal for like 3 months. So it's kind of stuff like that. So I only own like clothes. Like I only have a suitcase full of clothes. Only thing I own and my laptop. And I've had the house in the United States. I've had cars. I've had motorcycles, and now I have nothing. So, and I've never been happier or more free. So that's one of the things I talk to veterans about. So like, but there can, so my first apartment in the Dominican Republic was $500 a month, and I paid an entire year up front. Like here's an entire year. Now I don't have to worry about rent for an entire year, and my only bills are like electricity, internet, and cell phone, and that's it. So when I kind of, when that happened, when I removed the what I'll call like financial stress from my life got so much better because financial health is mental health, and a lot of the veterans in the United States, I mean, a lot of Americans generally are struggling month to month. And then when I wasn't struggling month to month anymore, when I had enough money to eat out, when I had enough money to have a maid, when I had enough money to like live a high quality life, I found like my PTSD symptoms, my anxiety, my stress, and my depression, diminishing.
So when you left the States, where was the first place you went?
Thailand.
Thailand. Okay. And how long
Yep.
you stay there again?
I like a year. So
Yeah.
I taught English over there too. So I taught English out of school, and that was a really cool experience. And I love Thailand. Like I love the veteran community there. I love Muay Thai, the fitness, the Buddhism. So Buddhism for me turned out to be really healing. I think a lot of us kind of, we maybe not dismiss other cultures, but when I went there and I went to like temples and I did meditation classes, I found a lot of mental health growth or healing in that. So I started in Thailand, and Thailand's great. A lot of veterans were there. One of the downsides of Thailand, you have to be 50 to get a long-term visa there. If you get a pension visa, like a retirement visa. So some countries, like Colombia, doesn't have an age limit on a retirement visa. There's like Panama or Costa Rica, but some countries, they do. And you do got to follow the laws when you move abroad. Like you have to follow the immigration laws and stuff. So we're all kind of weird about immigration, but because I know like veterans that got deported from like Mexico and Thailand back to the United States. They'd stay too long, which is kind of funny.
When they get deported, does that mess up like as far as their passport? Only over there, it doesn't mess
Back
up.
to the country. Nah, they just can't go back there. So the, you know, and Colombia will kick you out or ban you for a year. Like I have a veteran buddy who overstayed his, you get 6 months a year here without a visa. I had a military buddy that overstayed like a couple months ago and he's banned for a year. So now he's over in Mexico chilling out until his Colombia ban lifts.
So,
It's
what
a crazy.
prompts you to like creating the books that you wrote? Yeah, I want you to
So
talk
like
a
the
little bit.
Veterans Guide to Moving Abroad was, so I made some social media video. I've already been writing. So I wrote my first book for student veterans, Combat to College, because I failed out of community college. And when I got out of the military, I went to Harvard. So I always tell people I'm like a community college dropout that ended up going to Harvard. So I've been writing for a while. I've had a blog for a while. And then I started writing about it because I made a few videos on social media and it really blew up. And I realized that veterans needed this information. So then I started doing individual countries. I went to Mexico. I met with like the American Legion there. I met with how veterans get their health care. I, put out all this information. And then I started making some more videos and stuff. And I started just getting tons of questions. So I was like, okay, let me write a guide. And the first guide that I wrote was about 30 pages, just how to move abroad as a veteran. I did like a PDF. So I put it on my website for free. Here you go. And then of course, more questions come. Oh, how do I move abroad with the dog? How do I do this? How do I do that? Like, just all the questions people have. So I wrote a second edition of the guide that was like 100 pages and put out some more information, more of my thoughts, more of my experiences as I lived abroad for longer. And then I just did the third edition of the guide like 3 months ago. And that was, a pretty big success on like Amazon and everything. It's called Veterans in Paradise, and that's sold quite a bit. And I also offer for free. So the digital version I offer for free for veterans. If you're interested in moving abroad, I'll 100% send it to you for free. Just shoot me a message on like Instagram or TikTok or email or whatever, and I'll send it over to you. So that is like 300 pages of moving and living abroad as a veteran and everything you need to go, everything you might need to know regarding international schools, if you have a family, regarding safety, regarding healthcare, all these different things, because there wasn't anyone else talking about this. There's like a million veterans talking about like leadership or whatever else, but nobody was talking about the military benefits that veterans have outside the United States. And beyond that, the mental health benefits and emotional health benefits you get when you move abroad. So I wanted to kind of be that voice for the veteran community and put that out there.
Yeah, that's what's up. That's what's up. So, when you started all of these, moving around, what would you say is the easiest country to move to so far? In your experience.
Dominican Republic. Dominican Republic is the easiest, and Peru is easy too. Dominican Republic is real easy because there are no immigration requirements if you're American. You can go there and stay as long as you want. You don't have to fill out any paper. You don't have to do a background check. You don't have to do anything. You can go there and stay as long as you want, and then you pay a fee when you depending how long you stay. So if you stay there for a year straight without leaving, when you leave, you have to pay like $160, which is of course not very much to an American. So we do. So like I know veterans that went and stayed there for like 3-4 years without leaving, just needed to go back to the States to like renew their passports or do whatever. So that's a very veteran friendly country. And there's also a lot of veteran clinics in the country from Punta Cana to Puerto Plata. There's a lot of veteran healthcare clinics there that exclusively serve US veterans. The cost of living there is, of course, lower than the United States. And I found Dominican Republic incredibly safe. I never had any issues there for like 3 years of living there, other than like people trying to rip you off and overcharge you for things, which is kind of like a normal part of life. What are you
Yeah,
gonna do?
definitely.
So, so that's why, like I mentioned earlier, there are about 15,000 American veterans that live full time in Dominican Republic.
Yeah, I didn't realize that people.
Oh yeah, we would go out. We would have. It was kind of interesting how we started our group because initially, like me and a couple of guys, there's retired vets, a couple of retired cops. There's this restaurant in the city we lived in that had like all you could eat rib night on Wednesdays. So every Wednesday night we would meet up there. And then more and more veterans started showing up. And before you know it, we have like 25, 30 veterans that went to this weekly rib night. So I started like giving speeches, and then we started inviting people in to speak about real estate, about healthcare, and it kind of became a little more formalized. And then I linked up with my buddy who's a 20-year Army vet, and we kind of created this organization called Veterans in Paradise, which you can check it out on veteransinparadise.com. And our mission is to create one, community for veterans who live outside the United States, and two, provide information and resources regarding healthcare, regarding visas, regarding whatever you might need to know if you're living abroad. And the second thing is to give back to local communities where we live. So right now we are doing an orphanage toy drive for Christmas with 3 veteran-owned bars here in town and the veteran clinic and then our organization. So on the 20th, in a few days, we're going to go and be delivering hundreds of toys that veterans have purchased. And like last week, we had a big beer pong tournament, and all the money from the beer pong tournament got donated to the orphanage. So we're going to be going there and giving about, hundreds of toys to this orphanage. So giving back is an important part of it for me because, I am here because the cost of living is cheaper and it's a happier, healthier life for me. But I don't want to just take, I want to give too.
So when you're abroad, how how about holidays? Are they any different? Do they have the same holidays?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool because you get 2 sets of holidays. So I get, like, for example, I get the 4th of July and I get the Colombian Independence Day here. So there's all these kind of different things you celebrate. So, like, for example, December 1st here is a big holiday, like the first or the last day in November. Everyone in the entire city parties and shoots off fireworks to bring in December and the Christmas season. So like the last day in November here is like a huge party holiday. Everybody's in the streets, everybody's shooting fireworks, everyone's drinking and dancing. So there's, a lot of different cool holidays you get. And then for the American ones, what we do is like, we'll have Thanksgiving, like we had Thanksgiving at Hooters. So hey, let's all go to Hooters for Thanksgiving here in Colombia. So all the Americans go to Hooters and they make some turkeys and all that stuff. So, we do try and get together and celebrate the holidays because one of the dangers or risks that you have if you're a veteran moving abroad is isolation. So that's one of the things, why we do want to create a community, why we do want to create groups, why we do want to create, fellowship with veterans abroad, because it is easy to come here and all of a sudden you're disconnected from your family, your friends, your culture, and all that stuff. And that could be dangerous for veterans, to fall in isolation or maybe addictive and unhealthy behaviors, because that's one thing that is very present in the veteran community is like unhealthy behaviors. So it's not uncommon to see veterans drinking early in the morning or whatever. So we wanted to provide, something different.
So what's up next for you, John? Yeah, what's something next for you next?
What's that? Say, I'm sorry, you cut out for a second.
What's next for you? What do you think you're gonna be up to next?
I don't know. I don't know. No, I don't know. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna travel a lot next year. I'm going to kind of live in Airbnbs for a little bit, travel around, and continue kind of this mission. Yeah, I'm gonna work on a new book. So I've been writing that for a little bit, just to kind of continue to, spread the message and things that I do. Like, it was a big project for me to do, like my veteran affirmation book. So this was 365 days of veteran affirmations, what I was saying you earlier. And me as veterans, we tend to have dark humor, be overly sarcastic, and be very negative. So sometimes when we continue that mentality outside the military, we kind of screw up our own brains. So we kind of lead into that negativity. So I wanted to provide an affirmation book for veterans using our culture, our creeds, and our values, because nothing existed for veteran affirmations. There are a lot of different affirmations in the world, but I think you have to tailor them for the veteran community. So I looked up all the Navy creeds, all the Marine stuff and everything, and kind of tried to write the book using those, using that type of language that veterans can resonate with, because I think we do have that tendency to be overly sarcastic and negative and dark humor. So we have to combat that. Otherwise, kind of get lost in the sauce. And once you make your brain a better place to be, your life is going to improve. And whatever you think is going to end up being your reality, like whatever you tell yourself over and over again is going to be your life. So if you're a veteran and you're telling yourself, oh, I have PTSD, oh, I'm depressed, oh, I'm anxious, oh, I'm overweight, then eventually that's going to turn into your everyday life. But if you tell yourself, hey, I am struggling, but I'm strong. If you tell yourself, hey, I am capable and I can rise above this. And if you start telling yourself stuff like that every day, then your life is going to get better. So that's been a big mission for me. I also have a YouTube channel with some affirmation videos I did a while ago. So some veterans aren't going to read, especially Marines who can't read, so to make it so they could listen to the affirmations. So I put some pretty views, I paid someone to do the videos for me. So there's, affirmations for everything from veteran addiction to Christian affirmations for veterans I did with a couple of the guys, to different affirmation videos for veterans. So that's veteran affirmations on YouTube if you look it up.
So let me ask you, when you left the States, what was your mindset? You were like, I'm out of here, or you just like, I'm gonna try this. Let me
Yeah, I was gonna try it. So, I struggled a lot with PTSD. Initially, I struggled a lot with addiction too. I struggled with alcohol and pills. So that was kind of like I love doing pills and alcohol. Like that was kind of my thing after the military. So, and I realized how much your environment plays into like your mental health in your life. And once I changed my environment, it gave me kind of a fresh start. And that fresh start was kind of like a wake up call for me. And that's what kind of led to the mission of telling other veterans, because of my own personal experiences with my mental and emotional and spiritual health, that I wanted to get that information out to veterans that this is possible, especially, our generation of veterans, Iraq and Afghanistan generation of veterans that might feel a little lost, might feel a little struggling, might feel a little crushed by financial costs, by politics, by whatever else. So I wanted to get that information out to veterans. And then it's been really rewarding because I've obviously talked to a lot of veterans, every day, done stuff, and a lot of veterans be like, hey, I moved to Dominican Republic. After getting a bad divorce, after struggling in the States, and I moved here and I found peace. I found a healthy relationship. I lost weight. My health conditions, improved, all those different things. And hearing that every day from veterans has been really, really rewarding.
And you said you have a roommate. And
Yep.
how did y'all meet up? How did y'all meet?
We met in the Dominican Republic. So he's kind of one of those veterans. He saw some of my videos on social media and he came down to check it out. And he came to one of our veteran events. And, he had just retired after 20 years in the military. And, like me, multiple deployments, divorces, struggling. And then he moved abroad. He lost like 30 pounds the first first couple of months of moving abroad, got healthy, like discovered happiness. So he's kind of like one of those kind of like guys that were like, a change in your environment can really change everything. So then, we became friends. We were both in the Army for a long time. So we became good friends. And then you kind of figure out like, one of the things with, it's funny because we made like a Instagram video about like our apartment in Dominican Republic. And we lived in like a 3-story giant house with a pool.
Yeah, I've seen that one.
You guys are gay, living together, like all these people are gay. It's why it was funny because I'm like, he was like, I got kids, But so that was kind of funny to see. But for veterans, like we're used to that community culture. We're used to kind of being around other people, and having someone, especially abroad, can be a big thing. I mean, having a roommate's not a new thing in the world. Like it's kind of a pretty common thing. So it's been cool. It's been good.
All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end it on that note, John. It was nice talking with you, man. Man,
Yeah,
I really appreciate the information you sent to me, man. Like the affirmation, because I was reading through some of that. That's some good stuff, man. I think a lot of people need to, especially veterans, need to.
Yeah. Like hey, once you change your internal conversation, it can really lead to change in your life, whether it comes to finances, whether it comes to health, whether it comes to anything else, relationships, especially for veterans. So for anyone who wants to check out the affirmation book or wants the guide for veterans moving abroad, you can hit me up on Instagram, or you can hit me up on TikTok or email or whatever. All the stuff's out there, and everything's free for veterans.
Yeah, maybe we can get a group of veterans coming out of Colombia.
Yeah, bring some friends, man. We'll go out to the club. Last like Saturday, we had like 10 veterans in the club. We all got this big section, all drinking bottles, popping champagne. It was nice. We had one veteran in there in a wheelchair, and all the girls were like,
Hey,
if veterans are interested in learning about living abroad, you hit me up. I have a bunch of articles on my blog, and then everything is on my website at johnhdaviswriter.com.
I'm gonna see if I can get you in contact with people from Wounded Warriors. Like I said, we did have a lady who came and talked about Dominican Republic, but she was more like on the medical side. But you're a veteran as well. Maybe we can get you
Yeah,
just to talk to the veterans, so
yeah,
they can
that's great.
hear firsthand on someone who's
Yeah.
done it. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right,
All
brother.
right.
Have a good night tonight.
All right. You too, man. Have a good one. Nice talking with you, man.